Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. Doug Lamreese and Bill Landis. National picks, 6 games Landis. If you're watching on YouTube, you may have noticed our little intro thing. The bottom bar is blue instead of red. It says college football talk, not Ohio State talk, because we would like to remind people, Bill, that we do a lot of Ohio State coverage on this YouTube channel and these podcast feeds. But sorry, I muted myself. There are times when we're not focused on Ohio State. We are talking Big Ten ball, Northern ball, national college football, and this Friday National Pick Show is one of those times.
And when it's blue, that's what we'll talk about.
Yeah. Isn't that a good little
follow?
Yeah. So we'll try to do it sometimes, like in your podcast feed. We'll try to make it blue when it's a national thing. The playoff show on Tuesday nights is national. The Friday national picks. Sometimes we do a post-game show that's national, not just Ohio State. Sometimes my rants on Mondays are national, not just Ohio State. 6 games. We're focused on 2. At the end, we'll run through 4. Notre Dame, Navy, Wake Forest, Virginia, Northwestern, USC, and Washington, Wisconsin. No SEC games this week because I'm sick of picking against Alabama and saying the same stuff about the SEC. There's another couple games with mediocre top 25 SEC teams playing each other. I didn't want to pick them, and you were generous enough to allow us to ignore them this week.
We're not going to pick them, but just to have it on record, can you give me a winner in Alabama LSU, please?
LSU, of course. Come on. Now that Brian Kelly's out of there, come on.
Yeah.
Nuss.
Would be hilarious. Yeah.
You can't feed me heaping helpings of preseason Nuss hype and then not have Nuss take down the Tide, right? I probably won't be able to watch it because I have a blank screen on my TV when it comes to the ESPN and SEC. So they just they're out of my head. But we have 2 major games that we're going to focus on early. We'll still pick those other 4. BYU-Texas Tech, Big 12 banger, historic proportions. I had no idea how historic this game is, but we're going to open with Oregon-Iowa. And I've been watching stuff, and I'm wondering, Bill, Oregon-Iowa at Kinnick Stadium on Saturday. It is not an easy place to play, Bill, right? Like, we acknowledge that. Like, Kinnick Stadium ain't no joke. So you can't just march in there. Indiana found that out. Indiana was pushed to the wire by Iowa this year. Penn State went in there and lost. This is a 3:30 kick on CBS. Iowa is a home dog getting 6.5. But really, to me, this is about Oregon. And I do think there's a little bit percolating about, are we sure Oregon is good? Do you think there are some Oregon doubters out there?
Yes, I think there are some. I don't think there are a lot of them, but I think there's some people wondering what exactly to make of sort of the sandwich around the big win that Oregon had against Rutgers. It was like ran Rutgers off the field, but prior to that, they lost to Indiana. Then after that, they had a kind of a weird close game with Wisconsin. So what exactly does that mean? And Oregon is not helped by kind of being in a conference with, especially Ohio State, which really has not played close with anybody, and Indiana, who for the most part has not played close with anybody other than Oregon itself and Iowa, I guess. But yes, I think there are some folks curious exactly like what the ceiling is for this Oregon team.
Yeah, and it's just weird that the schedule, how it's worked out, like that Oregon at Penn State game was one of the biggest games of September. People were looking forward to it all offseason. You and I were looking forward to it all offseason. And then this Indiana game where Indiana goes to Oregon, and they're 2 gigantic games, and one is a double overtime win that now doesn't matter in a lot of people's minds because Penn State stinks. And the other is Indiana comes in their place and beats them. And it's like, oh, now that's right. I mean, it's a loss. It's a loss against Oregon when Indiana is one of the 2 best teams in the country. So I do think it's an interesting spot for how people view Oregon. And then they have a bunch of games. It's like they blew out Oklahoma State, but nobody cares, right? They blew out Rutgers, but nobody cares. And they're going to have this stretch. We've talked about this final 4-game stretch a lot. Iowa, USC, Minnesota, Washington, where they're going to play teams that are going to build up their resume, that are going to tell us something about Oregon. But I think if people are doubting Oregon too much, they're wrong.
Yeah, well, I think 2 things can be true, right? Like if you're doubting Oregon, you can be wrong, but I also think you can be, you can acknowledge the fact that Iowa's also good, right? Like, can I like live on both sides of that? Can I not being a total doubting Oregon mode, but also think that Iowa can win this game?
So I went back and refreshed myself. The two games that I wanted to watch to refresh myself were Indiana, Iowa. Iowa won 20-15 in Kinnick against the number 2 team in the country, and Wisconsin, Oregon. Both these teams are coming off their second off week, so they should be refreshed. They should be healthy. They should be raring to go. And so if you are saying that you think Iowa can win, but that's not really about doubting Oregon, what do you like best about Iowa that makes you think, heck, I just think Iowa can win this game because Iowa's good?
Iowa's defense, Iowa's ability to score in all 3 phases, which is like a weird thing to like almost expect from anyone. That they are, I think for this particular game that it's in Kinnick. I'm actually, I was looking through as you were talking. I believe this is right. Like the last time Iowa has played a top 10 team. Oh no, that's not even right too. I'm trying to find the last time Iowa played a top 10 team in Kinnick and lost by double digits. And I'm back to 2017 and I haven't found one yet. So that's part of it too.
Do you have some examples that you can throw at us about just looking at that and circumstances when Iowa has welcomed a highly ranked, talented team and given them a stinking dogfight in Iowa City?
Sure. I'll just start in this 2017 season that I'm in. Number 4, Penn State went to Kinnick and won 21-19. Number 6, Ohio State went to Kinnick that year and lost 55-24.
Yep.
Nothing the following year. 19, number 10, Penn State went to Kinnick and won 17-12.
Yep.
Also that year, number 8, Minnesota went to Kinnick and lost 23-19.
Yep.
I'll go to 2021. It's a lot of Penn State. Number 4, Penn State went to Kinnick and lost 23-20.
Okay.
Penn State has not had a great time in Kinnick Stadium, I think, as we know. Number 4, Michigan in 2022 went to Kinnick and won 27-14. So I guess that's the last time a team has won by double digits was 2022.
Okay.
But there have been other close ones there. 23, nothing there. And then last year, nothing last year. So, but they've all been kind of close except for that one Michigan game going back to 2017.
What did you... So I will say this. Let's start with the Iowa-Indiana game. Indiana won 20-15. Fernando Mendoza took a safety at the end of that game. So it was really 2013. It was 13-13. And Indiana scored on like a little quick hitter RPO where a guy broke a tackle and there was no safety help there and he was gone. But in that game, Indiana was stopped twice on 4th and 1 on what I mean, they were completely blown up in the backfield. So immense credit to the Iowa defense, but also didn't feel like there's any creativity to the run plays, and Indiana's offensive line got overwhelmed on 2 critical 4th and 1s, one near midfield, one around the Iowa 25-yard line. And then Fernando Mendoza threw a pick. I think it was intercepted like inside the 20, but maybe the snap was outside the 20. So that was like a critical thing. Indiana did outgain Iowa in that game. Indiana got a hand on a punt in that game. There was some like weird stuff early on. But the one thing in that game I will say is Indiana could not run the ball at all. They averaged like 2.7 yards a carry, and I think Indiana tried to run it almost 40 times in that game. And that is a heck of a thing. 39 carries for 104 yards for Indiana in that game in the overall stats.
For a team that's run the ball for 300 yards 5 times this year.
For a team like that, but I also think maybe Oregon's run game is even maybe a little better than Indiana's. So I'm curious about the matchup there. But
so.
how impressed are you? I'm living a little bit on what they did against Wisconsin. Let's hope. How
They're
impressed are
better
you
by
by the
yards per
Iowa
carry.
defense?
They're better by yards
How
per carry.
impressed are you with the Iowa defense and like what they've done? Not just they did the same thing against Penn State. They're 6-2. They have the Indiana loss. They have an Iowa State loss, and they've just been playing that Iowa standard of defense.
Yeah, I think it's an Iowa defense. It's like they don't. The thing that was weird about that Indiana touchdown that won that game in the fourth quarter is like Iowa blitz. It was like a zero blitz. You don't see that a lot from Iowa. So they kind of they do it the way they've sort of always done it. They don't have. There have been obviously people know the not household names, but like incredibly good kind of like singular talents on Iowa's defense over the years. I don't know that they have exactly that, but they just have a lot of guys, I think, who understand the system, who are like they're good up front, they're stout up front, strong up front. They're not like super twitchy and athletic up front. I think the secondary is pretty good. Safeties are good, corners are probably fine. But I think by and large, it's like a traditional Iowa defense. The one thing they're not good at is they're not good in the red zone. But I think they make it really difficult to drive the ball down the field. But if you are able to do that, they do have a pretty high red zone touchdown percentage.
Okay. So Iowa defense, stout, Phil Parker, awesome, play connected, do all the things Iowa defense does. Iowa offense.
You didn't mention in the Indiana game, Mark Gronowski got hurt. Hank Brown threw 13 passes in that game. He was 5 of 13 and threw a pick late.
I can feel it. Oh my God, you're riding with Kirk Ferentz. You're building the case. He's building the case.
My case is that Iowa turns everyone into Iowa when they play in Kinnick Stadium, and I don't know that Oregon is impervious to that.
Yes, I think that certainly is the case. I am not sure what to think. Mark Gronowski, since the Indiana game, 17 of 24 for 107 passing yards against Wisconsin, but it was 37-0. Like he didn't need to do any more than that. 10 of 16 for 68 yards against Penn State and a 1-point win, but he ran for 130. A bunch of that was on a 67-yard run where Penn State was horrible tackling. Minnesota, they blew Minnesota off the field. He was 12 of 19 for 135 yards. Like, does it matter? Like the offense is scoring points. Does it make sense for me to read the stats of an Iowa quarterback when in its wins, Iowa has scored 34, 47, 38, 37, 25, and 41? We're not talking about a team that's trying to win in the teens like they have in the past. So who cares if their quarterback's throwing for 117 yards per game?
They don't throw for many yards, but he's been like fairly efficient the last couple of games though, hasn't he? Gronowski? I think that's important. Like, can Iowa find opportunities to move the chains throwing the ball? I think is maybe something that could be a little different as he's gotten like more and more comfortable, which I think is clear, and healthier probably. Like 13 of 20 against Minnesota, 65%. He was 56% and 54% in the first two games, including a loss to Iowa State, and he's been like north of 65 in almost every game since then, including 72% against Wisconsin.
Yeah. Kamari Moulton's a good back, 82 carries, 435 yards on the season, 5.3 yards per carry. But they still, like, this is not a and again, I think there's been this thing of like, hey, man, you put like a real quarterback with this Iowa defense and you've got something. I'm not sure where I am on the you put a real quarterback part, because we thought Mark Gronowski was a huge transfer, incredibly successful at the FCS level, won the FCS Heisman, like a real dude, like coming in and it felt like he was going to change everything about Iowa offensively. But I don't know that it's gotten all the way there. And he did make some throws, like, right. You talk about the efficiency when he was in there against Indiana. It's like, you find some throws like, oh, he just made a throw that they needed right there and he found a way to do it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Oregon's going to let him do that. And Oregon's talented. And I just don't know if they might need more from Mark Gronowski than they've asked of him at any point this season so far.
Yeah, they probably will. I think what he's ended up being is sort of like a minor upgrade as a passer, but he gives them a very different element as a runner, I think. I don't know how far that gets you against a team like Oregon, but I was curious mostly to see how much quarterback run Oregon's defense has faced this year, and the answer was like not much at all. They are on the lower end of the FBS teams in terms of just like total number of designed quarterback runs they face this year. So doesn't mean they can't stop it, because the little bit that they have seen, the average is fine, but the average per carry is fine. But I wonder how much of a wrinkle that might be for Oregon's defense to try to stop in this game. But yeah, if it becomes a game where Gronowski needs to throw to keep Iowa in the game, I am certainly not super confident in that either.
Yeah. Okay. I do think it's more about Oregon. Oregon, last time out, I just rewatched the whole Oregon-Wisconsin game. Again, both these teams are coming off their second off week. Oregon won that game 21-7 at home against a bad Wisconsin team. Oregon onside kicked to open the game and recovered it and then did nothing with it. Very slow start by Oregon. I think they might have punted the first 4 times they had the ball in that game. So very slow start. Their first 4 possessions, Oregon was stopped on downs and then punted 3 times. After that, against Wisconsin, they went on a 16-play, 99-yard, 8-minute and 24-second touchdown drive. Their next drive was 7 plays, 75 yards for a touchdown, and Dante Moore, their quarterback, got hurt in the middle of that drive. Their next drive they punted, and their next drive with the backup quarterback was another touchdown drive, 54 yards. You look at the scoreboard and it's 21-7 against a bad Wisconsin team. You look at the reality, and the reality is after a slow start, they put together a 99-yard drive with their guy. Then their guy got hurt, and they still finished 2 more touchdown drives with their new backup quarterback in a downpour at Oregon. They just downshifted. But they also, with 3 minutes left, leading 21-7, ran a fake punt and threw for a touchdown on a fake punt in the final 3 minutes of a 2-score game that was called back by a hold. So they opened with an onside kick. They threw an unnecessary fake punt for a touchdown at the end. In a game, they only scored 21, but they continued to be ruthless. And actually, I thought in watching it, it was actually a pretty impressive performance by a team in bad weather with a backup quarterback to just make sure the game didn't get away from them. But they also had that pedal down Dan Lanning attitude. And I came away thinking that win was a positive for Oregon. And now with Dante Moore back healthy, with the week off, I'm wondering if we get the full Oregon. Because I think they know they might have some doubters. And that makes me curious about what a Dan Lanning team might be about to do.
Iowa was off as well, right?
Yes, both off.
Yeah. I just don't know that the shenanigans work against Iowa. And maybe it's just that Oregon is like way more talented and that'll show up. Certainly that's possible. But I don't think like throw your fake punts and your trick plays in a trash can. I don't think they're going to work against Iowa.
So it is one of those things.
Especially at home.
Like, why did Kurt Cignetti could not talk more about Kurt Cignetti has been completely dismissive of some teams this year. He was completely dismissive of Illinois when they beat him by 60. He could not have been more respectful before, during, and after the Iowa game. Kurt Cignetti, like Kirk Ferentz walked so Kirk Cignetti could kick you in the face. Mm-hmm. Right? Like this is Kirk Ferentz's dream. Kurt Cignetti is like what he wishes he could be if Kirk Ferentz had a little bit more swag, right? But there's an inherent how you go about your business thing. And that style of play went to Eugene and beat the Ducks up and down the field all night. So now you're saying if Cignetti did that to Oregon, now Oregon's got to try to come into Kinnick. You think Iowa could do a version of a similar thing? Yeah,
I do. Because I think Iowa can block Oregon. I think Iowa might actually have the best offensive line in the country. I don't know. The matchup I'm interested in is like Oregon's offensive line against Iowa's defensive front, and if Oregon, to your point, like might actually be able to run it on them. Because if they can, then I don't like. It could be a long day for Iowa. I think. You have two like very aggressive special teams operations here. Yes. So they almost like cancel each other out to me. And I think like with a week to prepare, an extra week to prepare, both Iowa might have something, but I know that like Iowa is not going to get like out coached in this game. They might just get out talented. Mm-hmm. But if they're home, they have the crowd. There's going to be some weather in this game too. Like I think it's going to be pretty cold and rainy, and like potentially by the end of the game, maybe some snow flurries. That could be like a minor factor. Game's played on turf. I'm not going to pretend like it's going to be more than it is, but I don't know. I just think there are things lining up for Iowa to not get run off the field here. But I'm not like super confident they're going to win necessarily, because I think even if Iowa can block Oregon and Mark Gronowski in theory has time to throw, like who's he throwing to? Like that still remains an issue for Iowa. And this is not the same like Iowa offense we saw when they couldn't throw, but at least they had Caleb Johnson ripping off 60-yard touchdown runs, right? That's not exactly how they operate. So unless Oregon is just sort of woefully underprepared for handling quarterback run, I still think it's going to be tough for Iowa to move the ball consistently against Oregon.
You know, we thought like Dante Moore was a Heisman candidate in September, and then the Indiana loss when he threw 2 picks in that game, kind of wiped him off the field a little bit. Got sacked 6 times in that game by Indiana, and so this to me, like to if Oregon was cruising along last year, they were the only regular season undefeated team last year. They get destroyed by Ohio State in their first playoff game. Curt Cignetti comes in their place and out physicals them. If they go to Kinnick and lose, how much does that change our view of what Dan Lanning and Oregon actually are? Because a year ago at this time, heading into the playoff, it was like, this is the greatest program without a national title. Dan Lanning might be the best coach in the country. They are physical and ruthless, but they also will bring like a little, trickery to the thing. They're good on both sides of the ball. They recruit, they work the transfer portal. Oregon's got it all. But if you lose to Ohio State, Indiana, and Iowa in 11 months, what are we talking about?
Talking about a problem winning big games, I think, because you don't even get any credit for beating Penn State.
I know
anymore, right? Yeah. So, but that, like, we heard a little bit about that before Oregon won the Ohio State game last year, right? Because Dan Lanning had not coached well against Washington in his first couple of years. So, I don't. The sample size is probably not large enough for us to like go start deviating into James Franklin territory with Dan Lanning, but I think if they were to lose this game, you might start hearing some of that.
Yeah. I think this is a huge gut check about what Oregon actually is. This is a team that beginning of the year, you and I were saying 3 best teams in the country, Ohio State, Oregon, Miami. Miami has thrown that away. Is Oregon about to throw that away? We thought they were that talented. Are they about to throw it away? Or that Curt Cignetti and Kirk Ferentz are ripping it out of their hands? Hey, like Danny Boy, like, Kirk and Kurt, like sitting on the porch, smoking stogies in the rocking chairs, talking about like, oh, Dan Lanning, he thinks the grass is greener over there. Ha ha. Like, what? Like, come on. That's what this, you're setting this up. Are you picking Iowa?
No, I'm not picking Iowa. No, I'm picking Iowa to cover, but I'm not picking Iowa to win the game. Yeah. I thought you
were all the way there. I thought you were going to Gronowski and Ferentz your way all the way through here.
The thing that kept me from doing it is that Dante Moore is really good at protecting the ball. Like, I think the recipe for Oregon to win needs to involve like a pick 6 and a special team score. And for Iowa to win, I don't know that I see that happening with Dante Moore at quarterback. I think he might encounter some struggles, right? It's a tough defense to play against, but he's been really good at like sort of not putting the ball in harm's way. So I think that will be it's the only thing you notice like when it goes wrong the other way. But like if he gets through this game, not turning the ball over, being smart with it, that will be, I think, a pretty underrated reason for why Oregon wins. So I have Oregon winning 21-17. So like I have it close. And like a turnover could flip it, I think, for Iowa, but I don't know that it'll happen.
Okay. I have 27-13 Oregon. I still have some questions about whether the Iowa offense against a pretty good defense can really do enough. And this is, like I said, if Oregon is who we thought they were, you have to go handle your business here. Right. So even though we have the list, there's been plenty of good teams that have not been, but like part of the whole thing is Ohio State got their doors blown off that one time in Kinnick, right? But a lot of that, what you cited and you mentioned, is like, oh, that's Penn State struggling at Kinnick. And that's like exactly the kind of thing that Penn State in that era. Like was that what Oregon wants to be? Does Oregon want to be Penn State? The
spot is currently vacant if they'd like to fill it.
But do they want to be more than Penn State? So like if you think you are more than Penn State, then you go in and you handle this. You don't struggle. You don't win a game in the teens by 3. Right? So I do, and I just think they have enough to do it. But again, like you can go through the stuff. They a slow start. They got hit in the backfield by Wisconsin. That's the thing. Like Wisconsin was like enough of a test defensively, I think, especially up front. They got a couple sacks early on Dante Moore. They got beat on some stuff. They got hit in the backfield early, and it was like, what is happening here? But then when they needed it, they ran the ball. And Noah Whittington and Jordan Davison has been a revelation for them so far this season. They combined for 30 carries for 199 yards in that Wisconsin game. And they, like the second half, they kind of were gashing them with regularity when there wasn't much to the pass game. So that's what I'm imagining. Can they get to that point? Right. And maybe this is close early, but then can you lean on a good defense late and run the ball? But then also, if you have Dante Moore doing a little bit there, I think a 2-score win for Oregon is on the table. All right. That's a good discussion. That's a good game to talk about. We're talking about 3 really important Big Ten teams this week: Oregon, Washington, and USC, because these are like 2-loss Big Ten teams that at the moment remain in the playoff discussion. And so like these are teams, I think we're going to keep watching teams like this, even if they're not, this is a great game for Iowa, but a couple of those others, like, why are you guys doing USC-Northwestern? Why are you doing Washington, Wisconsin? Because USC and Washington like really matter right now, right? So we want to keep eyes on teams like that. And then BYU-Texas Tech really, really matters. This is at Texas Tech. Texas Tech is favored by 10.5. And the game that this reminds me of, Bill, is these are 2 top 10 teams. We think they're both good, but we've had games each of the last 2 weeks that we have been suckered by. Minnesota at Iowa, we were like, I think Minnesota's better than Iowa. Why is this a double-digit spread? Iowa destroys them. Cincinnati at Utah, you and I thought this is like a 1-point game. Cincinnati at Utah, double-digit spread, Utah destroys them. And those are the vibes I'm getting here of undefeated BYU going to Texas Tech. Why is this a double-digit spread? But maybe there's a lesson to be learned.
Yeah, there very well could be. Because I think, and this is the question I suppose you ask of every Texas Tech game, it's like, can the team that Texas Tech is playing block Texas Tech? Because the answer in the Big 12 is often no. BYU's offensive line, I think this year has been pretty good. Bear Bachmeier, their quarterback, has some mobility. But yeah, if they sack him 8 times, which is very much within the realm of possibility, then this is a game that can get out of hand.
Here's the stat that I is just like, it's amazing for this game. These teams are both ranked in the top 10. This is the first top 10 game ever for BYU. They have never played a game when they were in the top 10 and their opponent is in the top 10. And
I can't imagine Texas Tech has played many either. Texas
Tech, this is their 8th.
Okay.
It is their first since they played 3 in November of 2008. They are 2-5 all time in these top 10 games. This is where game day is going. This is a noon start. I can't watch it. Maybe you can watch it. But
it's on Fox, isn't it?
Oh, is it on Fox? I thought it was.
I think it's Big Noon.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, for real? No. Yes? No.
Oh no, it's ABC. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's because game day is going.
Big Noon is Indiana, Penn State.
Woo! Yeah, game day is going. So, but the Big Noon people aren't going to. The Big Noon people are going to Iowa, Oregon, but the noon game is Indiana, Penn State on Fox.
Yeah,
it's very confusing. We're not here to promote pregame shows. Whatever. We'll Bill will just call you and tell you what's going on pregame. That'd be a pregame show. This is great for BYU and Texas Tech. Both these teams are among the top 20 in the country in both scoring offense and scoring defense. There are 6 teams that have both. There are 3 in the Big 12, BYU, Texas Tech, and Utah, and there are 3 in the Big 10, Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State, which is a wonderful stat because it just proves that the SEC is mid. So I like that stat. This Texas Tech lost to Arizona State. BYU's played a couple of, they're undefeated. They played some weird kind of one-score games. Utah kind of gave the game away against BYU in a lot of ways, but Kalani Sitake is a tremendous coach. This is the second year in a row they're 8-0, but it does feel like a tough spot for BYU, does it not?
Yeah, it does. I guess the one thing I'm a little uncertain of is Texas Tech's offense, because like you mentioned their top 10, or was it top 10, right? You said in scoring.
Both are top 20 in scoring 20, offense and defense. Yeah.
And Tech, like in SP Plus, is top 10 both offense and defense. But there's been like some funky stuff going on at quarterback, and Baron Morton is back playing now, and like he's been good. But I wonder like I guess like how many games does Texas Tech need to like get into a bit of an offensive rhythm? Like they did score 43 last week against Kansas State, so it's not like they've been struggling to score. But even like watching a little bit of that game, it wasn't like they were marching up and down the field on Kansas State the entire time. So, and I like BYU's defense a lot. Like BYU's defense is aggressive, really good after. Like the front seven, I think is pretty darn good. The secondary, similar to last year, I think is where you encounter some issues perhaps against a team that can really throw the ball, but I don't know that that's definitely Texas Tech. So I like BYU's defense's ability or potential to like hang in this game. I just don't know about the offense. I think their offense could get overwhelmed by Texas Tech's defensive front.
Yeah, David Bailey and Romello Height on the defensive line for Texas Tech just have a ridiculous number of pressures of the quarterback, and Bear Bachmeier as a true freshman has done an unbelievable job for BYU. But I mean, Texas Tech is in the conversation with a team like Ohio State for the best defense in the country, right? Like you look at like eye test and advanced statistics, like Texas Tech is not giving up much.
They do not. I think like EPA per play, they might be first in defense. Yeah, and it's all about the defensive line, but also like the Jacob Rodriguez, their linebacker, is like a turnover machine. Like he's really good. They got a couple guys up front besides Bailey and Height who are problems. They lead the country with just total pressures, 150 total pressures this year. They're 8th in pressure rate. They had like the number 2 like team pass rush grade on Pro Football Focus. They just really overwhelm teams. But they're also good against the run too. Like you can't run the ball on them. They like the thing. I think I said this before, like among the most impressive things I've seen this year was like Texas Tech going to Utah and shutting down Utah's rushing attack, which is probably the best rushing attack that Tech has played this year before BYU. BYU's got a pretty good one, and LJ Martin's back. Like he got hurt in the last game. He's back for this one. He's a very good running back. Yeah.
Very big.
Bear Bachmeier.
Yes.
Yeah. He can run a little bit. So it'll be another test, but I don't know what like BYU's team total is, but I like that whatever it is, I'd like want to bet the under. I just like I don't know that I can see BYU scoring more than like 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game.
Texas Tech's game notes, by the way, just are saying that Jacob Rodriguez is the best defensive player in the country. They're just like stating it as fact. So it's like again, they have some dudes who will get after you and will run around a little bit. I'm trying to learn my lesson from like, man, I think both these teams are good. It's a double-digit line. I'm going to take Texas Tech 30-17, and I will say they will cover the 10.5.
Yeah, we're pretty similar. I have 31-14 Texas Tech.
Okay. Try to get a little smarter week to week. And this is just one of those where this really matters to the Big 12 in the playoff picture. BYU's undefeated. Texas Tech has the one loss. It very well could be that these teams rematch in the Big 12 championship game. What would that mean if they would split? Like, you know, if you didn't watch our playoff show on Tuesday, your theory of the case was Texas Tech beats BYU this weekend and beats them again in the Big 12 championship game. But BYU at 11-2, if they beat everybody else, still gets in to the playoff, and you get 2 for the Big 12. Like that would be this is a very big deal, I think, for the Big 12, not just in terms of who wins, but how it looks. And the committee on Tuesday made it very clear that they are into the eye test and they are into vibes and they are into like coaches breaking out film. So BYU and Texas Tech need to play a high-level football game so those gold coaches in the committee room can think they can hang with the SEC. And that's really going to matter.
Yeah, I think they could. Like you and I picked comfortable Texas Tech wins here. Like I don't know. Like BYU, just like paying closer attention to them the last couple of years, like that always seems to have some magic in them somewhere, right? So I don't know that they need to conjure a lot of it to win this game. Like I think they're two pretty well-rounded teams that have played well this year. It's just that Texas Tech's defensive front is like so ridiculously good that it's just hard to pick against that, especially when they're at home. So, but I hope it's competitive. I hope like, you know, we've picked some tight games and games that got really wonky. I hope we're wrong here and we're picking a more of a comfortable win and it ends up being closer.
So again, I saw two different headlines this week that based on the fact that BYU's never played a top 10 game before, this is the biggest game in BYU history, at least regular season game, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, like they won a national title in 1984, and that is the biggest home game ever for Texas Tech. So like, I don't, you know, like that's what's on the line here. So it's cool. I'm glad that these two teams, they've earned it, but I'm glad they're getting this kind of this spotlight to show how good they are. All right, let's run through the other ones a little quicker. Friday night game, Northwestern at USC. USC at home is favored by 14.5. This is like USC at home with that efficient offense. Northwestern's defense is pretty good, but if USC is USC, this is a time to show it, right?
Yeah, I just think they're a very different team in the Coliseum. If you just look at their offensive numbers, they average 52 points per game at home. Now, the thing with that is the only really like good team they played at home is Michigan. But they average 52 points per game at home and 9.3 yards per play at home. And I like great story for Northwestern and what they've done this year to stack together 5 wins already. I don't know that they're ready for USC firing on all cylinders offensively at home like they seem to do.
There's a USC Oregon game coming down the pike. So it's like Friday night, if you're not doing anything, like get some eyeballs on USC, right? To like reconfirm, like, what are we actually talking about here? Yeah. I have 34-13 USC.
Just to be, and like Northwestern has 5 wins. Western Illinois, UCLA, which fired its coach, UL Monroe, Penn State, which fired its coach, and Purdue, which has, what'd you say, 82 new players on its roster. So
now, to be fair, it's actually, I think UCLA and Penn State fired their coaches because of Northwestern. So It's like, Northwestern beat these schools that fired their coach, or is it like Northwestern makes you fire your coach? Like they got pelts on the wall.
Watch out, Lincoln Riley.
So actually, the UCLA coach got fired the game before. That was the first game for Tim Skipper as the head coach was against Northwestern. It was before they got it rolling. But the James Franklin pelt is theirs. So
it is. Yeah. Did you see, by the way, I know he's not your favorite college football media personality, but Josh Pate suggested this week that Lincoln Riley could be in line for one of these big jobs that's open and leave USC.
Don't care about either of those two people that you just mentioned.
I know you don't. But it could be a factor here if Lincoln Riley's got 1 foot out the door. Maybe this game's closer. I don't think it'll be very close. I have USC winning 35-14.
35-14. Okay, so here we are. We are picking the exact same score again because we do that. Let's go to Washington and Wisconsin. Like this matters to me because Washington has to go like play some good road games if they are going to actually have the committee respect them. They are 23rd in the committee rankings. That was good for Washington. This is a 4:30 game on the Big Ten Network, and Washington on the road is favored by 11.5. Wisconsin, again, like Wisconsin, for all the things that I was saying, like, you know, Oregon actually took care of business. Listen, man, Wisconsin went on the road to Oregon and only lost by 14. That's a success for Wisconsin, too. Can they do something here and dig in against Washington, or is this like the Washington offense on the road just takes care of business?
I don't know if they're going to take care of it. Like Wisconsin's defense has been a little stingy lately, right? Like Ohio State threw it all over them, but Ohio State really struggled to run the ball against Wisconsin. And even, you know, taking into account that Dante Moore got hurt, like there were some moments in that game against Oregon where I thought Wisconsin's defense played pretty well. So I don't think it's a layup for Washington, and who we know it doesn't always play its best game when it's on the road. This is not Eastern Standard Time, but it is some travel east for them. So I don't know what to make of it. I think like Wisconsin's switching quarterbacks again, right? They're going back to Danny O'Neal. Is that what's happening with them?
I didn't notice that.
I think I saw that. Yeah. So I don't know how much of a difference it'll make, but the Hunter Simmons experience seems like it's over. So, and
Yeah.
they're not turning it over to the freshmen. So Wisconsin has not scored a point at home since September 20th. So we'll see if they can do that in this game. I think Washington will win, but maybe it could be like a little bit of a slow start for them, similar to how it was when they went and played at Maryland earlier in the year. So I have Washington winning 24-14 just because Wisconsin is a little bit hopeless right now, but I don't think I'd be surprised if it looks like Washington is like struggling a little bit in this game.
So you're taking Wisconsin with the points, with the 11.5. So the two like road games like this that Washington's played, they got shut out in the first half against Maryland and then went crazy in the second half to win that game. They scored 7 against Michigan, and DeMond Williams Jr. threw 3 picks. So those are the two. Like now they're doing this. So at some point if you're going to be a good program, you got to go on the road and play a good game. So like the Michigan thing was a little wonky. It wasn't just like, I don't think it was like that DeMond Williams Jr. lost his mind. It was like there was a throw where like the guy kind of ran his route a little bit weird. And there was a throw deep that should have been a catch and actually bounced out of the guy's hands. And so like I have obviously I've liked Washington all year. I've liked Washington since the preseason. I've been talking about Washington all year. People have pushed back on like, oh, Doug, you're puffing up Washington and like that Ohio State only beating them 24-6. It's not that big a deal. I still think Washington's good. But if you're good, then you got to go to Wisconsin and play well. And you got to go to Wisconsin and like leave no doubt and like look like the team that you are. Because if they wind up in a fight, and they're not going to be in the playoff mix unless they run the table, which includes a win at Oregon, against Oregon in the last game of the regular season. But if you want to be in the playoff fight at 10-2, you got to look the part. So they got to go look it. And this is also as like you've seen like the betting odds, right? Like Jed Fish is up there in the betting odds for the Florida job, which you've been talking about for 18 months.
I actually didn't see that. Yeah.
So
it's not Lane Kiffin. He's probably the next logical choice.
Yeah. So I have 35-16 Washington. I'll take Washington minus the 11.5, just like you got to go do this if you are who you want to be. Yeah. Next one is, I just feel like we have to talk about this like a tiny bit because they might make the playoff. This is Virginia. We've done very little Virginia talk on this show. Wake Forest at Virginia, 7 p.m. on ESPN, so you won't watch it. Virginia at home is favored by 6.5, and Virginia's had 3 games this year where they've almost lost, and it feels like maybe this is the one they actually lose because Wake's not bad.
No, and Wake has given some like Georgia Tech a scare and SMU a scare, right? They played some close games with teams. I would just like to see Virginia lose because I don't want to see them in the playoff. I don't think they're a good team. I think they're doing it with duct tape and glue, and they stink, and they're just leading a bad conference. So I would like for them to lose, and anything to get Pitt into the ACC championship. I'm in favor.
Oh yeah. And this is like, again, it's like it's just it's not the same. The record's the same as Indiana last year, but the conversation's not the same. I don't think that's talking out both sides of our mouth. If a year ago we were like, you should respect Indiana, and now we're like, man, we don't want to see Virginia. It's just they've been on the precipice a bunch of times. And is the ACC good enough to have somebody jump up and get them? And Wake's like 5-3. Like Wake might be just good enough to be the team to do it.
Yeah, Wake is, what is Wake? 5-3. Wake has a 10-point loss to NC State, a 1-point overtime loss to Georgia Tech. They got run off the field by Florida State last week, which is not great.
Yeah. All right.
So they beat SMU 13-12.
We're both taking Wake, right?
I'm taking Wake 21-20.
I'm taking Wake 26-21. Okay. So the underdog to win there. And then Notre Dame Navy. And again, I just think we want to talk about Notre Dame a little bit. Notre Dame's favored by 26.5. Navy's been a competitive team. They're in the mix in the American Conference. This doesn't affect that. This is a traditional rivalry. Navy and Notre Dame play every year. It's wonderful. But Notre Dame continues to have to look good. And I didn't listen to it, but I saw some tweets about it. People talking about like 10-2 Miami maybe being in the playoff picture, even though I think 10-2 Miami, which just means Miami wins out, like wouldn't necessarily have. Miami's probably not making the ACC championship game. So like a 10-2 Miami that's not in the ACC championship game, but has a win over Notre Dame. And would they be in? I saw people saying like, yeah, they definitely be in. And that's bad for Notre Dame. But like, is Miami actually going to get there? But
They're separated by 8 spots.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't agree with the conversation. I didn't even realize people were having the conversation, because to me, what you just said would be like, well, no, I don't think it's a conversation. And Notre Dame does have a game against Pitt. But Notre Dame continues to have to look good to do as much as they can to make their playoff case, because they probably like it. If it's an eyeball conversation, which it seems like it is so far, that's actually probably good for Notre Dame, because like they've gotten the defense straightened out a little bit, and when they're on, they're kind of on, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think you're right. It is an eyeball conversation for them. That's why they're 10th. And when they play their best, they look like one of the better teams in the country. I also think like Miami's got another loss in them that'll settle this debate. I don't know that I necessarily agree with, at the moment, Miami and Notre Dame being separated by 8 spots. It does seem kind of silly because, they played and Miami won. But I don't think it'll matter in the end, because I kind of think Notre Dame is just going to like kind of pulverize teams on its way to not losing the rest of the year, including in this game, because Navy's defense is really bad. They can't stop anybody. Navy's defense is 115th in stop rate, 117th in available yards given up, and 99th in touchdown rate. I think Notre Dame. Now, there's weather like in the Midwest this weekend, and it seems like the later you're playing Saturday, the more of an impact that might have. This is a night game in South Bend, so it's going to be like in the 30s and cold and rainy. That could like maybe turn into snow and maybe some wind. So maybe that takes away some ability for Notre Dame to throw the ball, but I don't really know that that'll matter, because Navy can't stop the run either. So I think Notre Dame wins quite comfortably. I have 49-17.
I have 42-14 Notre Dame. So we're both thinking they handle. What was your score again?
49-17.
I have to put it in my data sheet. Okay.
You never said what our records were last week.
Oh, I forgot to say it. They're both very good.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You are 35-35 on the season. You were 4-3 last week. I am 31-39 on the season. I was 3-4 last week. I was riding high, man. North Carolina got that win over Syracuse on Friday night. I was like, Bill is going down. And then I got like one right the rest of the week practically. So as usual, not a great week for me. But yeah, it's nice for like you're at 500, man. I think you'll get over the top this week. Yeah.
All I care about is that my record continues to be better than Ari's, and it is. So, but also yours might be. So.
Oh yeah, good. Oh, we should just do that. Even though Ari's not on the show, it's just be like Bill's record, Doug's record, and Ari's record from another show, just to like make ourselves feel better. You guys can check us out on Substack if you want some Ohio State coverage over there. BillandDougOSU.substack.com. BillandDougOSU.substack.com. You can check out our friends at Roback.com, RHOBACK.com. You go there. So you type that in the old Google machine. You click on the game day tab at the top, and then it is just a list of all the college football teams that they have specialized gear for. And I know that's like, okay, there's like all kinds of different teams. Even if you hate other teams and you only want to buy your team, sometimes I think it's fun to see like what the other teams have for their looks. You know what I mean? Like, what is their stripe like? What is their little logo like? Oh, there's a little alligator on there. That's a little elephant. God, that's a little elephant. That's a little bulldog on there. Ooh. So anyway, you just go peruse, window shop, and then find your favorite team. 20% off your first order if you use the code BAD20.com. Like, subscribe, tell a friend about the Bill and Doug Show. Thanks as always for being here. Tuesday playoff picks, Friday national picks. Monday, me usually ranting about some stuff about college football, a bunch of Ohio State coverage the rest of the week on the pod feeds and on YouTube. For now, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.